In this video, we are going to talk about 8 ways your childhood affects your love styles. So before starting this video, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for the future updates. To understand how your childhood influences your love life, you must first discover the patterns and conventions that you learned as a youngster. Humans learn through seeing and imitating other people. A bunch of studies looked at this for both humans and our ancestral cousins, monkeys. As a result, what we see in our families as we grow up has a major impact on us. Note, although the term family is used throughout, it can refer to a wide range of family configurations. Here's a list of the 8 ways your childhood affects your love styles. Let's start. You place a significant emphasis on family, which is one of many variances in attitudes and behaviors that should be separated from the others into its own category. While still in childhood, every child develops notions about their family, affection, and what they are entitled to. Some of these decisions were made with our knowledge or consent, but the vast majority were made without our knowledge or consent. Do you consider a partnership to be a cooperative effort? Is it necessary for the family to have certain responsibilities, or is that not the case? When it comes to your family, how important do you think they are to you? Before embarking into a new relationship, you must have a clear knowledge of what you want from it. After you've attained this degree of self-awareness, you'll be able to be entirely honest with yourself and your partner about what you both want. Whatever your current emotions are, you must be on the same page when it comes to this one factor above all others. However, just because behavioral patterns appear to be a catch-all term doesn't mean they can't be addressed. Each family's rituals, customs, and daily habits differ from one another, and each family is a unique collection of them. You grow up believing that your actions are the norm for everyone else, which is not the case. Many of these norms continue to shape our behavior as we progress through childhood and into adulthood. Their importance can range from anything as simple as the moment you sit down to eat dinner to something as complex as the power dynamics in a family. My fiancé's family of nappers, for example, is a relatively common occurrence in our society. They take 2-hour naps as part of their usual routine on busy days when they need to replenish. My parents, on the other hand, are only a few hours away from succumbing to the symptoms of insomnia. Inequalities like these are quite visible in our daily lives. You've had to let go of some old patterns at different times in your life. You're making room for each other's patterns to take root whenever you're not doing that. When two people with vastly different norms meet, they must collaborate to establish a new normal for themselves. During this procedure, which may take some time, patience and perseverance will be required. You've probably heard the term "let your inner child out to play." Depending on their age and stage of growth, our inner children may or may not require regular amusement. No cornfields, please. Our inner children may be afraid to come out and use the coping mechanisms they learned as children, but our outer children are not. We find ourselves employing these coping methods in our adult relationships as a result of our childhood experiences. In order to gain reinforcement and approval from your family members, you develop a perfectionist mentality as you grow up. Without realizing it, you've formed a habit of self-control to offset the bad emotions you're experiencing. Your partner and you are dating for the first time when you get into an argument, and in order to maintain control, you soon plunge into a terrible predicament. You finally figure out when your little girl reaction will be sent after much contemplation. After doing so, you'll notice that the coping mechanisms that previously worked for you are no longer effective. You're overjoyed. Despite your secret aspirations of meeting and marrying a royal, the vast majority of people prefer to marry someone from their own social and economic status. Screw you, Kate Middleton. It occurs so frequently that it contributes to the current deepening of socioeconomic gaps in the United States. It's understandable that something like this is taking place. You establish a money perspective in childhood that is focused on the quality of life you have, or desire rather than the amount of money you have. There are no widely accepted guidelines for how to allocate your money resources effectively, aside from the essential necessities of food and shelter. Some people spend hundreds of dollars on clothing depending on their financial situation, while others wear the same sweater for 10 years and move to a new place every month, depending on their needs. Others, if they are able to do so comfortably, may opt to save every last bit of their paycheck for retirement. These opposing viewpoints will reveal themselves in our interpersonal interactions. When two people's lives begin to combine, they will be forced to examine their financial relationship, which will be particularly challenging. While you don't have to agree on everything, you will need to find a way to keep your relationship balanced. You may still study how attachment theories affect our relationships without delving too far into the research behind them. Adults adopt one of 4 attachment styles, according to psychologists: secure, at ease with intimacy, unconcerned about rejection, and self-sufficient. Anxious, concerned, insecure about the connection, and yearning for intimacy. Avoidant, dislikes relationships and places a high importance on independence and freedom. Anxious avoidant, uneasy with closeness and concerned about the commitment and affection of a spouse. It's easy to understand how our attachment types might have an impact on our love relationships. What's more difficult to see is how our attachment types were developed during our childhood. In reality, our attachment tactics are based on your childhood attachments. Some of us were lucky enough to have a secure bond as children. In other words, you had parents that were involved, caring, and expressive of their love. As a result, you'll be better equipped to be open and trusting in adult interactions. Those of us who grew up with inconsistent, negligent, or unreliable parents are likely to be insecure about our adult relationships. If you were fortunate enough to grow up in the presence of meaningful relationships, you probably spent a lot of time observing how they worked. You were particularly struck by the couple's displays of devotion. You unavoidably accepted these displays of devotion as standard. Then you allowed them to enter our adult relationships without question. Affection can be shown in a variety of ways. For some people, being extremely helpful and generous, continually asking, "What can I buy you?" is an act of love. For others, it may be the polar opposite. Love may be expressed via self-sufficiency in order to avoid becoming a burden. As a result, spouses may not feel affection because it is expressed in a variety of ways. It's best if you can get on the same page as soon as possible. When it comes to our views and values, the adults who reared us have a big influence. Many of us can recall a reoccurring principle that our parents or guardians instilled in us as children. Even as we mature and establish our own ideals, we continue to hold on to our childhood beliefs in our adult relationships. My parents instilled in me a strong sense of self-control. Self-discipline not only defines my life, but it also serves as a yardstick by which I judge others. As a result, I criticized my lover when he wasn't always the most disciplined. It took several conversations for me to realize that self-discipline was not the most important value, but rather something I was taught to value above all others. It's difficult to break free from our early ideals and morals. When it comes to relationships, keep in mind that other individuals may have different values than you do. Every family communicates in a unique way. Conflict is handled in some households with hushed words and silent nods. Others may engage in a lot of yelling and hollering at each other during dispute. Conflict isn't acknowledged at all in a very dysfunctional choice. You all have your own communication ways, but that doesn't mean our family's patterns don't have an impact on you. These communication gaps will inevitably show up in our interactions. Let's imagine Johnny's family had a habit of yelling at each other when they disagreed. Everyone would move on and get along great after their boisterous talk. However, Casey, Johnny's companion, comes from a home where yelling was frowned upon. Casey feels it's the worst thing he could do when Johnny gets furious and yells. Johnny, on the other hand, is simply attempting to express himself. As a result of this disparity, communication breaks down. The sooner you can recognize your communication patterns, the sooner you can tell your spouse about them. You can then set communication guidelines for your relationship together. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoy this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.